This is Big Island Video News for Thursday, August 2nd, 2012. I'm Stephanie Salazar. A long day at the County Council meeting in Hilo on Wednesday. Two high-profile bills dealing with geothermal energy were on the agenda. Both were vetoed by Mayor Billy Canoy, and the council hoped to overturn the veto with a supermajority vote. 99 people showed up to testify on the override attempts and shared passionate opinions from both sides of the issue.
The issue of the vested interest taking priority over the health and safety of the community.
Disgusting.
Bill 257, a measure that, if passed as originally intended, would have provided or clarified the county's evacuation plans in case of a geothermal emergency by August 1st.
It's about long-term planning here. It's about making sure that we got the community best interests in mind when it comes to health and safety.
Council Chair and mayoral candidate Dominic Yagong introduced the bill and explained how we got to this point.
What we did, as you remember, council members, we did go out to Puna, and one of the things that was very, very prevalent there during the testimony is the community's requests for the County of Hawaii to actually have an evacuation plan in regards to the particular, in regards to the PGV plant in Puna.
Not knowing whether you would ever be able to go back to your home.
I made an announcement that in listening to the concerns of the community, that I was going to bring, I will be bringing forth legislation that actually mandated the Civil Defense Director to bring forth such a plan.
Some council members were perplexed at the mayor's veto.
We need leadership. We don't need politics. And I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen, that I smell politics too much on this issue.
Councilmember Donald Ikeda went right to the source. Civil Defense Administrator Ben Fuata.
You know, this is, like Mr. Hoffman said, this is politics. But to me, I'm a simple guy. I just need simple answers. Do we have a plan? This is the most important thing I need to know.
We do have protocols. You see, you have to understand that when we were mandated by the federal government to adapt the National Incident Management System, the NIMS, to be NIM compliant, we went to functionalities instead of stovepipe plans.
And would you guys be willing to open up some kind of forum where the community could give some input on what they want? Because that is their concern. And I think that would address most of the problem. Is that correct? Most of the people here? Because I don't think you guys, they really understand what your plans are. And they're afraid there's no plan. And it seems like you have a plan, so...
To prematurely assume an evacuation without fire going in and making an assessment would be jumping the gun and creating such public unrest at this time.
Everybody,
Wait,
Hang on, please.
all right,
Mr. Fuata, you are the Civil Defense Director for the County of Hawaii. You. It's your name on the door. And I'm glad you're here, by the way, just to let you know. When you mentioned to me that this all changed when the strategy plan that you brought forward was not approved by the mayor, now everything changed. Ms. Fuata, you're the man that's going to be responsible for the health and safety of the community if something hits the fan. I think you personally should be supporting any efforts to try to, bring a plan forward to be able to share with the community. I think it's your responsibility, sir. I really do, and I hope I get the council's support to allow Mr. Fuata to do this.
Eventually, the vote came down.
Mr. Blas.
No.
Ms. Ford.
aye.
Mr. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Ikeda.
No.
Mr. Onishi.
No.
Mr. Pelago.
On the motion to override, aye.
Ms. Smart.
Aye.
Mr. Yoshimoto.
No.
Chair Yagong.
Aye.
I'm sorry, aye.
Yes. Chair Ford, you have 5 ayes, 4 noes.
Dejected by the vote, many supporters of the bill left the chambers before the next vote as the council tried to resurrect Bill 256. There has been a lot of debate about the bill these past few months. It had lots of support from geothermal opponents. such as the Pele Defense Fund and Punapono Alliance groups. But it also had its detractors.
And what our concern is the fact that there is no scientific evidence to propose a 1 mile buffer zone.
These folks from Leilani Estates voiced their disapproval of the bill, circulating a petition just days before the big vote.
According to Bill 256, which was vetoed rightly by the mayor, the county could then purchase the properties in this buffer zone area at 130% of assessed value, take whatever structure that's on them and level it, and then deem the property uninhabitable with no scientific evidence. All of these people around that have mortgages and pay property tax, what are their homes going to be worth?
The whole intention of this particular relocation plan was to allow those that did not feel comfortable for whatever, and by the way, it doesn't say express a desire to relocate because of such and such and such. It's just if you have a desire to relocate, these funds would allow you to do that. So the bill that we put forward in Bill 256 allowed that to happen, but what it also allowed to do was to do everything that the people of most of them came from Leilani Estates said that they wanted. By making public safety part of the bill, it allows us to do the studies, collecting the data. In terms of community benefits, Fred, you got to do CIPs, bro. You got. You gotta have a mechanism for projects to go onto the books so that you can get these projects done, and it'll be on a fair, level playing field, what every other council member does.
The mayor's veto message does nothing, in my opinion, and should be rejected by this council and by any individual who sees the responsibilities we have as council members, first and most important, as being resolved with public health and safety issues. There is no bigger issue. And I don't understand why the administration would refuse to recognize that.
And the fact that these people are truly ill and their children may be ill hasn't even dented some of us on the council. And they're more worried about the community benefits, whether it's on here or not. They could write that bill tomorrow and change this. They could have written an amendment. Any of the four of them could have written an amendment and put community benefits back in. They didn't care to do that. I'm going to support this override. I've always believed and always stated that public health, safety, and welfare is the most important thing that a government does. And whether or not those four council members, any of them, change their vote is something I cannot control.
But the support and opposition of the bill from members of the council was predictable.
Mr. Blas.
No.
Mr. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Ikeda.
No.
Mr. Onishi.
No.
Mr. Pilago.
Aye.
Ms. Smart.
Aye.
Mr. Yoshimoto.
No.
Mr. Yagong.
Aye.
Chair Ford.
Aye.
Chair Ford, you have 5 ayes, 4 noes.
Bill 256.
Once again,
fails. We needed
256
6 votes
failed to get
override the
enough
mayor's
votes
veto.
to be overridden.
And I was not able to provide this information previously, but I have been allowed to do so at this time.
Hawaii County Clerk Jime
going
Kawauchi held
forward,
a news
the
conference in
findings are
Hilo
as
on
follows.
Wednesday
There
in order to let everyone know that things are under control for the upcoming election here on Hawaii Island. Kawauchi oversees the County Elections Division, and over the last few days she has repeatedly refused to answer direct questions about why she mysteriously closed her office in Hilo for a day last week, or why she made a sudden trip to Oahu to meet with the authorities. Kawauchi appeared on Oahu on Tuesday, telling television reporters at the state capitol what's been going on
Between 50 and 60 voters had duplicate names. They were in different districts and precincts. There was no pattern. And my understanding is that is typical of, so I don't think it's out of the ordinary.
Now it was the Big Island media's turn.
We are taking steps to correct the information and expect that we will not have any further problems with this.
Kawauchi started with a lengthy recap explaining the recent elections confusion.
So there are about 50 to 60 duplicate entries. Duplicate means that there are persons who have been listed in the voter registry twice. They're identified by name, social security number, and birth date. These do not appear to be systemic duplications. They're in different districts and precincts, and they're also, possibly could be attributed to voter applications that were turned in, but also inputting the records into the database. As far as any further investigation, that is going to be taken care of by other agencies. Our office was just, and me in particular as the county clerk, wanted to make sure that this information was turned over to appropriate agencies of the state. The other thing that we found, in addition to the duplicate entries, were 4 to 5 occurrences of what looks to be double voting in 2010. Again, these are possible occurrences, and again, this is not something that our office is doing an investigation on. We are just merely turning over this information to the state of Hawaii, and they will review and make a decision on follow-up as appropriate.
On Oahu, some elections officials said the sort of findings that had Kawauchi so concerned were actually common in the elections process.
Say a person votes by absentee ballot and they spoil a ballot, then we remail them a ballot, right? That's not necessarily voting twice, but if you're just looking at paper, whatever, it could appear like, hey, something happened here.
On Wednesday, Kawauchi admitted that she is still adjusting to the challenges of her position.
And I can't comment as to what other people might have opinions about on my work. But I can tell you that I take the job very seriously, and also I try to take great care in being attentive to the public and making sure that we're as well run as possible. So if the comment that was made is directed to the fact that I'm new, there's no question that I'm new. But in our county, clerks are usually installed for 2-year periods. So every clerk, at least that the clerks that I am aware of, have been here for 2 years, just as I have. So as far as being new, yes, I'm new. As far as being a rookie, I guess you could call me a rookie. But I think there might be more than one way to form an opinion on the actions that I've taken to make sure that we have a really good election.
Many of the clerk's problems can be traced back to the firing of former elections administrator Pat Nakamoto, who was allegedly dismissed for her involvement in an elections warehouse scandal involving alcohol on Maka'ala Street in Hilo. The attorney representing Pat Nakamoto, Ted Hong, was in attendance for the news conference. He later spoke in the hallway outside.
I think it emphasizes again her incompetence and inability to do this job. It's relatively obvious to me what happened, and probably what happened was that people voted by absentee ballot, didn't remember where they voted by absentee, so on the date of the election they walked in and voted. But she's not telling you that, and she refused to answer that question. It's a relatively simple question to any experienced elections officer. And I haven't even done the job, and I already figured out what happened. And all she had to do was tell you that was the problem. All she had to tell you was that was what actually happened, but she can't even tell you that.
During the news conference, Kawauchi refused to budge. She continued her silence on Nakamoto, who has reportedly been reinstated but immediately put on paid leave.
As far as your questions concerning employees, the Office of the County Clerk does not comment concerning personnel matters, and so I cannot provide you with comment.
Does that apply to why you placed her on administrative leave?
All questions related to personnel matters cannot be commented upon.
Okay. Now, does that also include as to whether there actually is somebody on the staff? I mean, I can understand where there might be something disciplinary matters, but currently she is on this. She is an employee of the county. I understand currently, but she's on administrative leave with pay.
Question about that in terms of what I'm able to provide to you, what information I can provide, and at this point I cannot talk about personnel matters. That until your question would be included with that.